Beneath Vancouver's dazzling skyline, a hidden city of despair takes shape. The homeless occupy its edges, crouched on freezing sidewalks, dispersed through shadowy lanes. Their existence, a chilling reminder of forsaken hopes. Still, this tragedy extends far beyond one place, mirroring the suffering of the homeless in America, a harsh reflection of collective neglect.
What we're doing down here is surviving, because that's all we can do, because there's nothing left for us.
In their voices filled with anguish, yet unbroken in spirit, lies a pressing question. Can a city so bright summon the resolve to restore its overlooked? Echoes of Despair, Vancouver's Hidden Crisis. Vancouver currently shelters more than 800 individuals without stable housing, marking a dramatic 32% rise compared to just 3 years earlier. This growing emergency, concealed beneath the city's image of prosperity, impacts not only the downtown core, but reaches suburban areas such as Surrey and Burnaby, as well as rural communities. The situation is undeniable. Tents and improvised encampments occupy sidewalks in the downtown east side, while others find refuge in parks, vehicles, or drift between friends' homes. These figures represent real lives, not mere numbers, people broken by unaffordable housing, untreated mental illness, addiction, and systemic neglect.
My life has been absolutely dragged through the mud. I've lost friends, I've lost family members, and I have nothing. I live on the fucking street. I freeze almost every night, and I steal to eat and support myself. I hate my life.
Among Vancouver's homeless population, nearly 1 in 3 are Indigenous, despite representing only 2% of the city's residents. Many bear the lasting wounds of historical injustices, including the devastating legacy of Canada's residential schools. Others are young adults priced out of the housing market, or veterans left behind by the very systems designed to protect them. Almost half of those experiencing homelessness in Vancouver sleep unsheltered, while many more crowd into temporary shelters or vehicles. The pressing question is, how can a city so wealthy with such a thriving economy fail to meet the basic needs of its most vulnerable? This challenge extends far beyond Vancouver, representing a national emergency that mirrors similar struggles throughout North American cities. As inequality between the affluent and the homeless deepens, we must confront a choice. Will we continue to turn away from the suffering before us, or demand meaningful change? Faces of the Forgotten. To truly understand the scale of Vancouver's homelessness crisis, we must look past the figures and see the people behind them. Consider Sarah, a 52-year-old Indigenous woman who has spent years sleeping beneath a tent in Oppenheimer Park. Her journey is one marked by trauma, beginning with her forced removal from her family and enrollment in a residential school system that left deep emotional wounds. "I never learned how to live," she says softly, her voice heavy with sorrow. "The streets became my refuge because there was nowhere else to go." Sarah's experience is tragically common. Indigenous communities remain overrepresented among Vancouver's homeless, a painful reminder of systemic neglect and historical wrongs. Then there's Michael, a 24-year-old who believed his life was stable until an unexpected job loss shattered everything. With no financial cushion and a $2 to $221 monthly rent for a modest one-bedroom, he ended up living in his aging sedan tucked away in a quiet North Vancouver lot. I thought I'd manage, Michael admits, gazing at his weathered dashboard. But one missed paycheck and everything collapsed. His experience highlights a grim truth rising. Living costs are pushing even the working class to the edge, forcing people like Michael into crises they never anticipated. And then there's David, a 45-year-old whose struggle with addiction stripped away his sense of stability. Once employed, he spiraled after a divorce, using drugs to escape. The drugs quiet the pain he confesses outside a shelter as tone hollow, but they also keep me trapped. Sarah, Michael, and David embody the varied and complex realities of Vancouver's homeless population. Some manage to secure temporary shelter, but many are left to survive alone, vulnerable to the harsh weather year-round. This crisis goes beyond statistics. It's about lives, disrupted dreams, broken, and a society that seems unwilling to confront its underlying causes. Hearing their stories leaves us with a difficult question. How can a city that prides itself on progress continue to abandon so many of its own? Fentanyl's cruel chains. In Vancouver, addiction acts as both a driver and a result of homelessness, creating a relentless cycle that traps people in despair. The downtown east side, often called the heart of Canada's opioid epidemic, starkly illustrates this ongoing catastrophe.
One was 50. I thought fentanyl, people died from fentanyl who were intravenous drug users on street entrenched, like on our downtown east side. That's who I thought died of fentanyl. I didn't realize that people could die from taking a pill.
Fentanyl, the synthetic opioid, responsible for thousands of deaths annually, maintains a ruthless hold on the city's most at-risk individuals. In 2023 alone, British Columbia reported more than 2,500 fatal overdoses, with Vancouver bearing the heaviest burden. Within the homeless community, nearly 60% acknowledge substance use, especially fentanyl and methamphetamine figures that reflect much more than mere data. These are human lives hanging in the balance, entangled in the turmoil of addiction. Consider David's story. After losing his family, he turned to drugs to numb the pain. At first it felt comforting. He recalls his hands trembling as he spoke, but eventually it became shackles I couldn't escape. His dependency stripped him of everything: his job, his finances, and ultimately his home. Now his daily reality revolves around evading overdose and street violence. Substance use drastically raises the risk of infections, HIV, and death by 8-fold compared to the general population. Yet alarmingly, only 10% of homeless people with addiction receive adequate long-term care, largely due to insufficient funding. Walking through the downtown east side, discarded syringes, distant sirens, and hollowed faces reveal a heartbreaking narrative. A local physician at a neighborhood clinic states plainly, addiction is an illness, not a moral shortcoming. Without stable housing, proper treatment, recovery remains out of reach. For many, the streets themselves perpetuate addiction with stress, loneliness, and constant danger, driving them towards substances for relief. This destructive loop only tightens homelessness fuels addiction, while addiction entrenches homelessness further. Can this pattern be disrupted? Initiatives like Vancouver's supervised injection sites have reduced overdose fatalities, but they fail to tackle the root causes of homelessness or substance dependence. Without affordable housing and robust mental health support, individuals like David remain trapped in a system offering little hope. This escalating emergency mirrors the opioid crisis sweeping through American cities from San Francisco to New York. If addiction can be treated, why are so few given the chance to recover? Roots of the crisis. Vancouver's homelessness crisis didn't emerge overnight. It's a deeply rooted problem shaped by intertwined economic, social, and historical forces forming a perfect storm. At the center is a housing market that has soared far beyond what ordinary residents can afford. By 2025, average rent for a one-bedroom unit hit $2.021, while home prices skyrocketed 300% over 20 years compared to just a 50% rise in median earnings. For countless people, a single setback, whether job loss, health emergency, or sudden rent surge, can result in eviction. With more than 21,000 households on BC Housing's waiting list and over 3,000 projects stalled due to insufficient funding, Vancouver's affordable housing shortfall is a glaring structural flaw. This reflects challenges seen in U.S. cities where rapid urban expansion often collides with the need for fairness and accessible housing. Social and historical dynamics further intensify the situation. Indigenous groups like Sarah's bear the intergenerational trauma of residential schools, which fractured communities and erased cultural identity. Despite being a small portion of the population, Indigenous people make up 1/3 of Vancouver's homeless. This persistent legacy of discrimination, coupled with limited mental health resources, compounds the crisis. Nearly 40% of unhoused individuals report mental health issues, yet treatment access remains scarce and underfunded. Immigration policies also strain Vancouver's housing market. The goal of admitting 395,000 new permanent residents in 2025 burdens an already overstretched system. Though newcomers strengthen the city's culture and economy, their arrival intensifies, squeezing low-income residents out of affordable homes. Economic pressures with baseline housing costs ranging from $2,600 to $2,800 per month make the situation worse. As one housing advocate noted, Vancouver's boom is impressive, but it's leaving the most vulnerable behind. This issue goes beyond mere data. It stems from policy choices. Focusing on luxury builds over affordable housing, underfunding addiction and mental health care has left society's most vulnerable to struggle alone. Looking at Vancouver's crisis raises a question. Are these failures distinct to this city or emblematic of a wider North American problem, where millions lack a safety net? The origins of this crisis run deep, urging us to rethink what progress means and who truly benefits from it. Scars on the city's soul. Vancouver's homelessness crisis etches deep marks on its residents' neighborhoods and collective identity. For people like Sarah, Michael, and David, every day is a fight for survival. Exposed to brutal winters and urban perils, they endure dangers few can imagine, with homeless individuals facing a premature death rate 8 times higher than average. The streets serve as their battlefield, where Untreated illness, infections, and violence loom constantly. Each night spent outdoors stretches endlessly, a struggle to endure against overwhelming odds. Communities feel the weight as well. In neighborhoods like downtown Eastside, escalating crime and visible suffering strain the social fabric. Local businesses watch customer numbers drop as tourists, once captivated by the city's beauty, steer clear of areas lined with tents and encampments. City resources already overburdened are drained by emergency response and law enforcement with no clear respite. In 2024, officials declared a state of emergency, a stark acknowledgement of the crisis's immense impact. The cost extends far beyond budgets. It cuts into culture, tarnishing Vancouver's image as a global beacon of livability. Travelers who once admired its charm now hesitate, confronted by a harsh reality echoing the struggles of homeless communities across America, from Portland to Chicago. At the heart of it all, the human toll is devastating. Families look on helplessly as loved ones are consumed by addiction, illness, or the streets themselves. A shelter nurse reflects each day I witness people striving to reclaim their lives, but the support they need simply doesn't exist. The crisis sends shockwaves through every part of the city. Residents grow fearful, yet many feel powerless to help. Vancouver faces a pressing question. How can healing begin when society allows its most vulnerable to fade into obscurity, their suffering overlooked? Light in the shadows. Amid Vancouver's homelessness crisis, glimmers of hope emerge through the dedication of individuals and organizations working tirelessly to make a difference. Though the city and province have taken measures to ease the strain, their actions often fail to match the overwhelming demand. In 2024, an emergency declaration enabled funding for temporary shelters, adding 500 additional beds. Shelter workers, their faces etched with both fatigue and resolve, hand out blankets to those seeking warmth and safety. Yet despite these stopgap measures, more than 21,000 households remain on the affordable housing waitlist, with BC Housing vowing to restart stalled developments, but showing little actual progress. Nonprofits such as the BC Homeless Services Association are vital, supplying food, clothing, and advocacy to those in need. They also gather critical data through surveys, helping to illuminate the full scope of the crisis and secure essential resources. Volunteers, too, leave a lasting mark. A soup kitchen volunteer remarks, "We can't fix everything, but we can offer someone a hot meal and a bit of dignity." Harm reduction initiatives like supervised injection sites have undoubtedly saved lives, curbing overdose deaths in the downtown Eastside, though their reach remains limited. Shelters frequently run at capacity, while permanent solutions lag far behind. A housing advocate sums it up well. "We're patching a broken system with temporary fixes. We need permanent homes, not just places to sleep." Fragmentation between city, provincial, and federal efforts further stalls real progress. While these actions bring necessary relief, they fall short. Vancouver's homelessness crisis requires a coordinated and sustained movement to transform brief sparks of hope into lasting, meaningful change. Invisible walls. Addressing Vancouver's homelessness crisis is anything but straightforward. Unseen barriers block the path forward. financial limitations remain a massive obstacle. More than 3,000 affordable housing developments sit on hold, deprived of essential provincial funding. The city's rapid expansion, driven by Canada's 2025 immigration goal of 395,000 permanent newcomers, heightens the competition for limited housing. This influx, though economically significant, pushes vulnerable populations to the edges, mirroring trends in U.S. cities struggling with accelerated urban growth. Social factors intensify the situation. Addiction and mental health conditions impacting nearly half of Vancouver's homeless population require robust treatment programs that consistently lack funding. Only 10% of those battling substance use disorders receive long-term care, leaving many stuck in cycles of relapse. Historic wounds, especially within Indigenous communities, call for culturally grounded solutions that are slow to emerge. A local leader observes, "We're asking people to recover from pain that society hasn't fully confronted." Public attitudes form yet another barrier. Some residents resist shelters or affordable housing near their homes, citing safety worries. A town hall scene shows angry debate. "Not in my backyard" signs clashing with appeals for empathy. This fear-driven opposition halts meaningful action. Additionally, incomplete data complicates responses, as surveys often underestimate homelessness, with many avoiding outreach efforts. Can Vancouver surmount these challenges without confronting its internal divides? The answer depends on dismantling these invisible walls, a struggle shared by communities worldwide. A personal reflection. As I explored Vancouver's homelessness crisis, its weight settled heavily within me. Sarah's quiet resilience, Michael's weary eyes, and David's shaking hands stay etched in my thoughts, each story a sharp testament to human strength amid systemic collapse. While walking through the downtown east side, I witnessed rain-soaked, tense faces etched with fatigue and a wealthy city standing in stark contrast to suffering. This is not solely Vancouver's burden. It reflects the struggles of the homeless in America, from Los Angeles to Boston, where neglect festers across boundaries. What troubles me most is our collective accountability. Vancouver, celebrated for its skyline and global prestige, thrives in affluence, yet averts its gaze from those left in darkness. How can such an advanced society fail to provide shelter, the most basic human necessity? This question cuts deeply, revealing a moral divide we can no longer dismiss. Small gestures, volunteers serving meals, advocates, demanding change, shines, flickers of hope, though they seem like whispers in a raging storm. These efforts, while essential, cannot bear the burden alone. Real transformation requires sweeping systemic action, housing treatment, and opportunities for everyone. Vancouver's crisis challenges us to reconsider our principles, to view the homeless not as burdens, but as individuals with dreams worth preserving. Will we confront this challenge or allow the forgotten to slip even further into the shadows? Conclusion. Vancouver stands at a critical crossroads, with more than 800 people facing homelessness. The city's crisis calls for a response that aligns with its wealth and aspirations. From the grip of addiction to the promise of affordable housing, the road ahead is difficult yet unmistakable. By centering housing, delivering comprehensive care, and strengthening community bonds, Vancouver can reshape its identity as a city of empathy and inclusion. This challenge extends beyond Vancouver. It mirrors a broader struggle spanning North America and beyond. The question remains, will we take decisive action to guarantee that no one is left behind in the march toward progress?